Welcome yet again to another lecture on supply-side conditions and how supply-side conditions may change or affect the supply curve in certain markets. So what we're going to focus on today is the concept of how labour costs can affect the supply side of different markets. And the analysis of labour costs is very similar to other costs. So to avoid doubling up, we're just going to do one lecture on labour costs and avoid doing lectures on how other costs such as utilities, cost of local raw materials, the availability and cost of new technology, and all that can affect the supply side condition. So other costs such as utilities, cost of raw materials or inputs. We're not going to talk about these in further lectures because the analysis is very much the same as how we are going to analyze changes in labor costs. Okay. So let's look at Joe. Joe here. Joe has two very unique, or not so unique skills. And he can sell lemonade, or he can busk. So first of all, he's a very good maker of local lemonade, and being only 10 years old, that's a very rare talent to have. So he makes lemonade for fun, or he can busk. And he's a very good guitar player for a 10-year-old. So he has two choices on how to allocate his time, either to busk or to make lemonade. Okay. Let's look at the costs involved in making lemonade. So we have the lemon. That's a pretty poorly drawn lemon, but forgive me, that is a lemon. And a lemon costs 10 cents. And that makes you 1 cup of lemonade. And also you need a bit of sugar. And sugar crystals. And that also costs around 10 cents per glass. What else he needs is cups. Cups to sell the lemonade in. And that also costs $10. Also, apart from cups, he needs water, but let's assume that water is free because he can just take it from his parents, and his parents don't want him to buy the water. But the parents are pretty frugal, so they require Joe to purchase the lemons, the sugar, and also the cups. So the overall cost of making a lemonade is 30 cents. And what he does is he sells the lemonade for $1. So he sells the lemonade for $1 to local neighbors. But what Joe is, he's a very shy kid. Even though he busks, he's a very shy kid, and he doesn't like interacting with customers. So what he does is he hires this guy called Ben. And Ben is Joe's best friend. But being a very learned economist at the age of 10 also, Ben tries to maximize or utilize his living standards to the fullest. And so what he does, instead of doing it as a favor for Joe, Ben is going to charge 50 cents per hour. And that's not a lot, but lemonade, Joe can sell, let's say, 10 glasses per hour. So he makes a profit of $7, as you can see. So 10 times 1 minus 10 times 0.3 equals $7. So Joe makes $7 worth of profit from the lemonade. But since Ben charges $5 per hour, 50 cents per hour, this profit is reduced to $6.50. As you can see, the cost of labor actually intrudes on the overall profit a firm has in supply. And so what this means is that Ben, at this point, is willing to supply. So let's look at the normal demand-supply analysis. We have an equilibrium price of lemonade, supply demand. We have an equilibrium price. Everyone's happy at this store at the price of $1 per glass of lemonade. And what he does is he sells 10 glasses of lemonade per hour. Okay, but now let's assume that Ben realizes that Joe can sell lemonade at $1 per glass. So what he does is that he doesn't demand 50 cents per hour now. He's now going to demand 50 cents per glass of lemonade. And what this means is that 50 cents also adds on to the overall cost of the production of lemonade. So this is Ben. Ben's labor is worth now 50 cents per hour, and then if you add these all up, the cost of making lemonade is 80 cents. And so instead of making $6.50 profit, he would in fact only make $2 profit. So 10 times 1 minus 10 times 0.8. He's only making $2 profit from lemonade, and he has to go through all this work of making the lemonade, squeezing the lemon, adding the sugar, adding all the water, and then handing it to Ben so that Ben can sell it to customers. And that's a big effort to only make $2 per hour, and Ben's making $5 an hour because he makes 50 cents per glass, and we're assuming that every hour they sell 10 glasses. Okay, so now Joe has the option to busk, and he knows that if he busks, he can make $5 an hour. And he chose not to busk before because he realized that he could make $6.50 an hour from selling lemonade. So now that the supply conditions have changed, we can see that because the profit he can derive from lemonade is now $2, he would choose and move away from the production of lemonade to busking. Now, although this is not a perfect example, we can see that the supply curve of lemonade would actually disappear, but for the purposes of showing demand-supply analysis, this would also reflect a shift to the left of the supply curve. And what this means is that the price of lemonade, because the labor costs have increased, because Ben's demanding now 50 cents per glass instead of 50 cents per hour, the price of the lemonade, which was only $1, will increase to say $2 because Joe wants to maximize his profits. This is going to increase to $2. Now, assuming this neighborhood is also full of kids, and now we can see that at $2, we can see that the profit that Joe makes is now $12, and this is better than before. But what this means also is that because at this neighborhood we can assume that because they're only selling to kids and adults don't buy this lemonade product, the quantity demanded would also decrease because the children at this neighborhood can't afford to buy lemonade for $2. And so what this means is that quantity may have decreased, or the equilibrium quantity would have to decrease to, say, 5 units only. And because they're only selling 5 units, the profit is again only $2. And so this is the basic example of how demand supply analysis works. So let's go through this graph once again. Let's not worry about Joe and Ben anymore. Let's see how labor costs can affect labor or other costs can affect the supply curve. Okay, so we have the price and the quantity. We have an upward sloping supply and a downward sloping demand. And initially, like what we talked about with Ben and Joe, we have an equilibrium quantity at Q1 and an equilibrium price. Everyone's happy here. But now assume that the labor costs have increased and people require higher wages, for example. And this goes this analysis is the same for, say, if utility prices increase or the cost of water increases or the cost of electricity or the cost of raw materials increase or the cost of inputs. This all relates to the supply and demand analysis. So if labor costs increase, we can assume that the same analysis can be applied if utility prices increase or the cost of raw materials increase or input prices increase. So the analysis here is all the same, but at the moment we're just focusing on an increase in labor costs. So what happens here is, because supply shifted to the left, we can see that at this point, original supply point, we have a new demand point. We have a new quantity supplied at Q2. So what happens is Q1 is demanded, Q2 is supplied. Because now we can see that there is a shortage of supply. Producers will respond to this by increasing their price, and as the price increases, consumers will respond to that as well by contracting their demand. So here is a contraction in demand, but also an expansion in supply. So what this means is that a new equilibrium point is reached at P2 and QE. Let's call that E for simplicity. Okay, cool. So now a new equilibrium point at E2 is reached as demand contracts and as the supply curve shifts to the left. Now we can apply this analysis similarly to if labor costs decrease. And because firms, generally in most cases, firms like the lemonade stand require labor costs to function or to exist, we can see that if labor costs decrease, then firms will see a greater profit margin available in that industry. And when that occurs, they will see greater profit opportunities and hence move resources to this industry. So using the same analysis, we have quantity, price, and a decrease in labor costs. So a decrease in labor costs, we will see a shift to the right of the supply because firms are becoming more profitable. And what this means is that the new supply, or the new quantity supplied at this price at point P, will be at Q2. And so now we can see that because labor costs have decreased, we now experience because demand is at Q1, supply is at Q2, we experience also a surplus in supply. And what that means is because there is a surplus in supply, producers will aim to get rid of all their stock, and so to encourage more spending, they would therefore decrease their price. And this will represent also a contraction in supply as price falls down. And as the price falls concurrently, the demand will experience an expansion. And so new price equilibrium is reached at QE and also at PE. And so this sums up basically how changes in labor costs or other utility costs or costs of raw materials or even inputs can affect the supply curve. So as you can see, if costs go up, therefore the supply curve will shift to the left, and if costs go down, the supply curve will shift to the right. And this will result in a new equilibrium price and a new equilibrium quantity demanded.